That's good. That's very good. But no, yeah, it's kind of thing where you got to pay your dues a little bit. Sometimes when you do things like that, you get appreciation when you finally do get to go cover the Detroit Lions or move on in life. You kind of started with the down there, whether it's high schools or minor league baseball or whatever. And there are still great stories down there and things that need to be covered.
So tell me, do you guys ever cover much Florida State League baseball with the Post, or do you want to do it down the road?
Years ago we did, obviously, because we have more space, more time, and more people and whatever. And I think there's more interest. Now, I hate to say there's very little interest. So usually when it comes to minor league baseball, what we'll do is, if there's a great story there we did a couple out over the summer, a couple of great stories, we'll do them, and that's pretty much about the extent of it.
Yeah, I think the one thing, too, that the Florida State League, I think, is one of the best minor league in the country. I really do, when you consider the prospects that have come out of there. And we know full well that a lot of these guys are playing at the best facilities around there. And I'll even take it a step further, Nick. When we went out, my wife and I went out to Arizona a couple of years ago, I'm amazed at some of the facilities that they've actually, they're making these year-round facilities. That was unheard of back in the day for us.
Yeah. I mean, I can still remember going to see minor league games at very rickety old ballparks, and there really wasn't much there. And now you're right; some of these places are pretty. I mean, they're still taking the long bus trips, and it's still not the major leagues, but the parks and the amenities and the clubhouses and all that are certainly a lot nicer.
Do you find it nowadays, Nick? Palm Beach Post rules all of Palm Beach County. How far north do you guys go?
We pretty much use Palm Beach County these days. We used to go up to like Martin County and up that area up there, even Port St. Lucie and down into Broward a little bit, but even all the way over to Sebring. But that was back in the day. Now it's pretty much Palm Beach County now. With that said, there's a good story. We've done these one county over, like a Martin County. We still like do that, but we don't really cover, and I wish we did, but we really don't cover like the high schools like we used to back in the day.
Is that due to mainly staffing issues right now, or just a cut back in the budget?
It's everything. It's staffing. It's the fact that the interest is. I mean, we find, especially online, that the interest in our online is people want to know about Palm Beach County, and it's just a lot of things. It's expenses. I wish. There's times I wish wave the magic wand and go back to the way it was, where we had unlimited, because there was a certain time there were papers where the advertising was very strong and we were making good money. We could afford to do a lot more things, have bigger staffs, bigger papers, and travel more and do things. And those days aren't here now, so you got to be smart about it. Our coverage has to focus in on Palm Beach County.
Right, and when you break everything down, think about the Sun Sentinel obviously owns Broward County, the Miami Herald owns Dade County. And I think one of the most depressing things I've seen, and I think we both know it since we're Tampa Tribune alumni anyhow, is how the Tampa Times obviously took over the area. I remember when it was the St. Petersburg Times, you had Hubert Mizell as the sports editor there, and then Tom McEwen. And I can't believe that the Tampa Bay area only has one paper. Yep. And that, to me, just boggles my mind. It really does.
Yeah, no, obviously I'm not happy, upset about that. No longer the Tampa Tribune no longer exists. Even the building it's all gone, knocked down, and they made condos on the river in Tampa, and that's very unfortunate. Any market loses the paper. It's a sad, depressing day. But I mean, that really, you mentioned it's hard to believe there's only one paper, but even the Tampa Bay Times, I still would call them the St. Pete Times. I mean, they're struggling because they're very leveraged. They've had to borrow a lot of money through the years, and they're hurting. And it would be amazing to me if they ever folded as a newspaper to have no newspaper in the Tampa Bay area. That would just boggle the mind. But it's the world we live in, because that was the other myth of the internet. Besides that, the social media, all this stuff would be good. I mean, the myth was back in the day when the internet first started, all the advertising that newspapers had would go online, and everybody would live happily ever after. And that never happened. The advertisers went away, and classifieds went away, and none of the ads went to online, and that's why all these companies are hurting today.
So are you saying that the Tampa Bay Times, and I'm just asking you because I want to make sure I get clarity on this, okay, that they're having some major financial problems too, or am I not hearing it properly?
Well, if you read the stuff up there, the Tampa Bay Business Journal, and then a lot of people put these things on Facebook, and I read them, and they're pretty good reporters. They're very leveraged out, and the lenders and banks calling these loans. I mean, they've been struggling financially for a while, and they've had to do certain things I'm sure they don't want to do. But it's hard to believe that with one newspaper in that market that they would be struggling. But a lot of it was, it goes back to the advertising. Now, even with the Tribune going away, then the advertising necessarily flow over to the St. Pete Times, and that's always been the bottom line. I mean, it's amazing. You go back in the day, you see those old papers. I saw some of them; they were huge, and there was ads on every page, and we were making money hand over fist, and the classifieds would fill up, sometimes 2 or 3 sections. And now, I mean, a lot of it's Craigslist and the internet's what's happened. And I mean, you see very little classifieds in newspapers these days, and the little bit that's there is not making any money because you're really just about giving it away.
It's amazing how you're actually bringing up Craigslist on this conversation. And when I look at the days when I was working in the bureaus, and in Tampa, I had an opportunity to work for a lot of different ones. East Hillsborough, Herb Branham was running the show. Jim Henry, Northwest. Chris Harry, obviously, was a guy I really liked working with. I think he had Northside for a while. And I know I'm probably missing out on some, so if I get crucified by those alumni that are missing, I'll make it up to you on another show since I'm running this thing anyways. But I think I'm covering a lot of them, though, aren't I? Am I leaving some names out that I shouldn't?
No, those are the guys who were back there who run the bureaus. You're absolutely right. But, I mean, just back then, we had bureaus. We had different editions. We had the sections were huge, and that's not gonna. It's not gonna. And the shame is, we have a lot of readers down here, older readers who remember those days, and they want it back, and they wish they were back, and they're just not gonna ever come back, and that's unfortunate.
Now, you guys recently wrote a story, I believe, if I read it correctly on Facebook, about the Palm Beach Stadium not being paid off. I think there's money to be owed. I don't want to get into an elaborate discussion on that, but I found that to be a very interesting story, that you're talking $153 million is what it costs to build it, and that thing's not paid off for whatever reason or another.
Yeah, I think it's not with the contractors, the subcontractors, a lot of things going back and forth with that. And remember, they kind of rushed to get it open that first year, and I guess they must have, I don't know what would happen. There was a lot of issues because of that, and I think that's where a lot of that's coming from. But, you tell me, name a big project these days that doesn't have these kind of issues and stuff. It seems to always happen, and unfortunately.
Okay. All right, let's talk a couple more things. We're running out of time here, but I want to make sure we address these. Obviously, some of my main responsibilities in the spring is you and I are going to place a heavy emphasis on spring training. Is that correct? You and I do a lot of things.
We're hoping we want to do spring training. We did some last year. We want to do more, and we didn't have the people to help us cover last year. So hopefully, with you on board, we'll get some more games covered. And like I said, we'll go big on the ballpark, the Palm Beaches, which is the Houston Astros and the Washington Nationals, but we also cover up in Jupiter where the St. Louis Cardinals and the Marlins had their spring training, and we would go as far as up to we would go to Port St. Lucie and occasionally do some Mets stuff because, as you know, there are a lot of New York fans down here. And then what's neat about it is when the Yankees come in or the Red Sox come in or whoever else comes in, we will do stories on those teams when they come down here.
Well, you can rest assured on national radio, Nick Pugliese, I will be making the East Coast track to every one of them. You don't have to worry about that. Of course, back in the day, I didn't know much about Sebring, but I had my first opportunity to cover Sebring last year, and I'm actually looking forward to that. I think it's just going to be different, knowing that I'm able to write these things for the South Florida Tribune and the Palm Beach Post as well. So that's the one thing people don't realize. So a couple more things before we get you out of here. How many of the old guys do you stay in touch with on a regular basis, or very much at all?
Not as many as I would like, and this I hate to use it as an excuse, but that's where Facebook comes in because quite a few, Joe Henderson and Joey, Jim Henry, a lot of these guys, Chris Harry, they're on Facebook, and they put things about their families and lives on there, or even they even post stories and stuff, which I enjoy reading and commenting on. So that's one way of doing it. And occasionally I do get back to Tampa and look up a few of them, and but I wish I could do it more often and see them more often. But it's not exactly around the corner, and they got their lives, I've got my life. So, but they're always they're never far away, and these are people that I grew up with. I mean, I started working at the Tribune. I was 21 years old. Was at the University of Florida. We all kind of grew up together, and I think once that happens, and you share all those bonds and memories, that they'll always be there. Yeah,
another guy that I actually had a chance to see at the reunion was Mick Elliott. Mick looks fantastic. He really does. Joe Henderson looks great. I'm trying to think of the guy from Channel 13, Ira Kaufman. There we go, wasn't it?
Ira. I keep in touch with them. I used to know them. I keep it. And then what's funny is where we live, you won't hear from these guys for a while, and also out of the blue, they'll drop you a line or there's something like that. And then what's nice about it is like when we do share each other's, like when I got the job at Sports Center, I heard from a lot of those folks, which was very nice. When those guys do good things up there, I try to congratulate and let them know, if they win the award or do something or break a big story. And, I say they're just good people. And, we were I tell you, we had a heck of I look back at those days and we had a heck of a sports staff. We really did.
Yeah, I think what's so nice about the sports staff, Nick, was the fact that no matter what you were covering, whether you're in the Lakeland Bureau, although not many of them came out there. Actually, when I was done with USF, Mike O'Keefe was going to transfer me out there. Unfortunately, I had a car that broke down. I didn't have another set of wheels, but I would have liked to have gone, but ended up moving on to professional baseball after that. But the one thing I will say a lot of times is anytime you have a close-knit outfit, and Lewis is finding that out with us here, that it's always good to know that your family isn't just who you work with, but the people that take an interest. And that's the one thing that we can say that I've tried to take from the Tampa Tribune and have instilled here, right, Lewis, with the South Florida Tribune.
No, absolutely. I mean, we pride ourselves on professionalism and, working to build the brand.
Good. Lewis, I want to ask you a question. Where'd you go to school?
I went to Monarch High School in Coconut Creek, and then I got my degree in communications from Florida Atlantic University. I actually just graduated in August.
Oh, okay, good. Congratulations on that. Very good. So let me ask you, obviously you're very young, just starting out in the business. Why do you want to be in this business?
So I always wanted to, something I always told myself is I never wanted to find myself doing something I didn't want to do. And two of my passions in my life have always been music and baseball. They're the two things I care the most about, and pretty much the two things, other than some football that I'll write, they're the two things that I enjoy writing about the most, because I feel like they're the two things I can most articulate well, because I generally tend to come up with better stories and just convey certain feelings and thoughts better when I have a passion for it. I call it selective favoritism. But I've always wanted to, I've loved baseball ever since I was a little kid, and my dad was a big Yankees fan, but I just took to it more than he did. So my primary aspiration is to one day be like a national kind of baseball writer, and that's what I want to do more than anything. So
good for you.
Pretty much it's just that love from childhood that's never really kind of gone away as I've grown older and mature, and I guess just with the passage of time that adoration for the sport has never dawned.
So with that said, Nick, what had you aspired to be a sports writer back in the day?
Well, I do a lot of talks to high school, journalism classes and such, and that question always comes up, and I'm always glad to answer it. I always tell them, I was in high school, I played baseball, and I wanted to be the next Mickey Mantle because I was a Yankees fan, but I stunk. I couldn't hit or I couldn't feel, so I wasn't going to be the next Mickey Mantle, but I also could write, and I had a teacher one time kind of say to me, what do you think about for a career? So I was a junior in high school. I said, I don't really know you. You ought to look at the writing because you're a very good writer. And I said, yeah, but I don't know if I'd want to. Then she kind of started thinking, wait a minute, I love sports, I love writing, and I'll be a sports writer. And that's what kind of planted the seed. And the next thing I'm going to University of Florida, majoring in journalism and working for the campus paper, the Alligator. I became a sports writer. And really, I always say, why do you want to do this? But here I am. I've been in this business for 4 decades, and I still love it. So, if I still do love it, obviously there's got to be something. Either I'm really stupid or I'm really smart, And I think I'm really smart. I do love it, and I'll keep doing it until I can't do it anymore.
And I'll give you my basic overview. I'm being from the Metro Detroit area. Many years ago, I used to like doing play-by-play for the Detroit Red Wings at my Aunt Tina's house. And she liked it so much, she inspired me to be a broadcaster. But I backed into it on the broadcasting side with my first job being a producer at ABC Radio, and then it landed me writing opportunities, and obviously writing and radio obviously go hand in hand, and obviously it led to lots of other opportunities. Anything you want to add before we let Nick go? So
I kind of have a similar story, and I still kind of do it today when I play like sports video games. Most of the video games I played growing up, where I was never into like those first-person shooters like Call of Duty and all those kind of games like that. I gravitated towards like MLB 2K and the show games and Madden football. So even now I'll still do it, and ever since I was a little kid, I used to write out like stat sheets, and I would just call the game as I saw it go. I mean, who knows whether or not I become a broadcaster. I need to get that deep. I need that cadence that Ernie Harwell and Vince Scully delivered for so many years. But, I always, enjoyed kind of talking about the game. And, even if I was in my own fairy tale world of playing a video game, I would do that sort of play-by-play, but in a virtual aspect, as opposed to, you actually watching actual games. Me, I was just using, 8-bit video of players and just kind of simulating it that way. And